Loading.
I can see his tail.
I can see his tail too. Let me go forward one and then back one, see if I can get it to load. There we go. Okay. So, maybe the title page won't load completely. That's okay. So, our story, How Chipmunk Got His Stripes, remember, is a different kind of story than we have read so far. It is a folk tale story. A folk tale, remember, is just a story that is passed down from generation to generation to generation. So great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers told it to great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren who told it to great-great-great-grandchildren who told it to great-great-great-grandchildren and great-greats and greats and greats and greats until it gets passed down through the years. Remember, too, folk tales usually have a lesson for you to learn. And we'll talk about that, what kind of lesson was learned in this story when we go through it today and we ask the questions. A lot of times folk tales are animals that talk and act like real people. We saw two folk tales yesterday. Remember, we saw the koala and the kangaroo. I think it was koala and kangaroo, right?
Yeah.
Was one of them. And then we saw the red hen, little red hen. Those are two other folk tales that we saw. And remember, the animals talked and acted like people. So obviously they're make-believe stories because animals aren't going to talk and act like people. But they're real stories in the way that they would teach you a lesson. Okay, so it's a fun way to learn something that's really important to know. Remember, we have two of the same authors for this story, Joseph and James Bruchac. And that's because Joseph, the father, would tell the stories to James, the son. And so together they wrote a lot of books like this, where they are passing along some of the stories from their Native American heritage. And we also have two illustrators for this picture because you're not going to see real photographs of animals that are talking. Levi, you don't need to have any of your supplies out. Put them in the back of your chair, please. Animals are not going to talk or make bread or cut wheat or any of the other silly things that you might hear about in folktale stories, okay? And our essential question for this story is, how can stories help you learn a lesson? We'll talk about that as we go along. So, how Chipmunk got his stripes. And I have to make the voices as I read through it because that just makes the story so much more interesting. Okay. One autumn day long ago, Bear was out walking. As he walked, he began to brag. There's that vocabulary word, brag. It means to talk too proudly. Levi, you need to stop playing with whatever it is that you keep tossing around that's falling. It's enough now.
I am Bear. I am the biggest of all the animals. Yes, I am. I am Bear. I am the strongest of all the animals. Yes, I am. I am Bear. I am the loudest of all the animals. Yes, I am. I am Bear. I am Bear. I can do anything. Yes, I can.
He is talking very loudly and braggly, isn't he? Bragging quite a bit, right? He sounds very proud of himself. So, let's talk about that. Sometimes people brag, right? What are some things? Now, Bear brags about being strongest and biggest and loudest. Those are some bear things that he could brag about. What are some things that people might brag about? Or have you ever heard a person brag about something that they might be talking about, like a people type thing? Gwen, you look like you have something to say about Paige.
This is actually Paige's friend, Leo.
Okay.
She likes to brag about, like, sometimes she's having at Disneyland, like, I went to the store 5,000 times.
Oh, so she likes to brag about special trips that she gets to take? Okay, that would be a thing that a person could brag about. What else, Angelina? Timothy would help you to pay attention.
Keeps on bragging about herself whenever I say, I was really good at, for an example, ELA today. And then she said, oh, guess what, Angelina? I got an A+. I'm smarter than you now.
Okay, so maybe bragging about getting the best grades or being the smartest person. That might be a thing that a person might brag about. Lonnie, what's something else somebody might brag about?
You can brag yourself in a monster truck, like in a monster truck like that. And you bomb it, and then you think in your mind that my monster truck is the strongest. I can destroy that other monster truck once and for all.
So you might brag about something that you have that you think is the best, like a toy or some kind of other item that you might think is better than anybody else's, possibly. Alina, what's something else you might brag about or a person might brag about?
My friend went to this place and she kept talking about it, and I wanted to go there really bad for my birthday, but we couldn't.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you an example of something that someone could brag about. You were telling me of a story of somebody bragging, but what is your example of something that someone could brag about?
Like, guess what? I got this new toy, and
Okay, so bragging about toys, like Lonnie was saying. Katie, what's something else that people could brag about?
my brother bragged that he had better stuff than me, like shoes, new clothing.
Okay, so bragging about clothing. So you might brag about how much money you supposedly have. Or maybe you brag about being the best at an activity like I'm the best back flipper, or I'm the best swimmer, or I'm the fastest runner, or I'm the most smart second grader in the whole school. Those are things that somebody might brag about. So let me ask this question. When somebody says something like that to you, like, oh, I got an A+, I'm smarter than you, like Angelina was saying how her sister would say that, I got an A+, I'm smarter than you. When somebody else is bragging to you, how does that make you feel? When somebody else might say that to you. What do you think, Landon?
Annoyed?
Yeah, kind of annoyed, maybe irritated. Gwen?
Makes me feel a little sad because like they're having all these like great things and like you're just like standing there hearing about everything.
Right. So maybe a little sad that you don't get to have or participate in some of the same things, or maybe you don't feel the same way about yourself. Valerie, what do you think?
Upset.
Upset? Derek?
Angry.
Maybe angry or mad? Yeah. So if you feel that way when somebody else brags, you feel sad or upset or mad or angry or frustrated, do you think it would be a good idea to brag about something then? Probably not, right? Now, let me back that up a little bit though. If you do really well in something, if you do really well in math, or you do really well in language arts, or really well in a sport, it's okay to be proud about that. There's nothing wrong with being proud and knowing that you do a really, really good job. And if somebody says to you, hey, you did a great job doing your math today, or you did a great job in science class with your answers today, or something like that, it's perfectly fine to say thank you and know in yourself that you do a really good job with it. But it's not a good job then to go back and say, I'm the most smartest second grader when it comes to adding and subtracting. Or I'm the most smartest second grader when it comes to writing my spelling words, or whatever it is that you're doing, okay? But it is okay to feel proud about something that you know you do very, very well in. Yes, Gwen?
It's also not bragging if you just want to like tell your friends they're going to go on a like really fun trip.
Oh yeah, if you're just telling somebody, hey, I get to go here on the weekend, that's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to do that. But when you're bragging about saying, I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I have this, and I have that, that's not good. And usually, little life lesson here for you, usually the person that is bragging, number one, doesn't really have the things that they're claiming. And number two, probably really didn't do the things that they said they're doing. And number three, most importantly, that person probably does not feel very good about themselves. So to try to make themselves feel better, they're making up stories to try to make you feel worse, if that makes any sense. Little life lesson for you right there, okay? So Bear's bragging.
I'm the strongest. I'm the loudest. I am the biggest.
Now, Obviously, the other animals probably aren't enjoying that too much, right? So, as soon as Bear said those words, a little voice spoke up from the ground. Can you really do anything? Bear looked down. He saw a little brown squirrel standing on his hind legs. Can you really do anything? Brown squirrel asked again. Bear stood up very tall.
I am Bear. I can do anything. Yes, I can.
Can you tell the sun not to rise tomorrow morning? Brown squirrel asked.
I have never tried that before, but I am Bear. I can do that. Yes, I can.
Because, of course, Bear thinks he can do everything in the world, right?
But you can't.
Nope. Would you think that maybe Bear's acting a little foolish right now?
Yeah.
Just a little. Maybe he should say, no, I really cannot make the sun come up. I mean, it's okay to admit, no, I cannot do something. It's okay to do that. But nope, Bear's acting a bit foolish. So Bear turned west to face the sun. It was the time when the sun always goes down. Bear stood up to his full height and spoke in a loud voice. There's the word height, how tall he is.
Sun, do not come up tomorrow.
At his words, the sun began to disappear behind the hills. Well, wait a minute. How did that happen?
How the sun was going down.
How did that happen that he can tell the sun to not come up, all of a sudden the sun starts to disappear? What do you think, Zayden?
Because it's soon gonna be night and the sun go down where the moon can come up.
Right, it's going to be night anyways, right? It's that time of day when the sun starts to go down anyways. But it is kind of ironic that Bear would say that and then all of a sudden the sun would start to disappear. Just really good timing on Bear's part, isn't it? And then at his words, the sun began to disappear behind the hills.
You see?
Bear said,
Sun is afraid of me. He is running away.
no, he's not Bear. But will the sun come up tomorrow? Brown Squirrel asked.
No,
Bear answered.
the sun will not come up.
Now, notice here too, on this page, the author uses all capital uppercase letters. Why do you think the author wants to use that kind of writing on the page? What would be the purpose of doing that, Angelina?
Because it's something important.
It is something important, but why else might the author want to use these words in big capital letters, Landon?
Because he's shouting and he's saying it very loud.
Right, he's saying it very loudly. So if you're reading something to yourself, I'm not reading it out loud, and you see those words on the page that are big and capital, in your head you can hear maybe that character's voice saying it very loudly. Because it's a little bit different than if I say, Bear stood up to his full height and spoke in a loud voice, sun, do not come up tomorrow. That doesn't sound very loud, doesn't it? But when I see it like this, I want to say, even in my head, I would say,
Sun, do not come up tomorrow.
as loud as I could. In my brain. Okay? Now, then Bear turned to face east, the direction where the sun always used to come up. There's our word direction. It means the way something is going, the way he's turned. He sat down. Little Brown Squirrel sat down beside him. All that night they did not sleep. All that night Bear kept saying these words.
The sun will not come up. The sun will not come up.
But as the night went on, Little Brown Squirrel began to say something too. He said these words. The sun is going to rise, woo! The sun is going to rise, woo! All right. So, all through the night, they sat there. One by one, other animals gathered around them. Fox and wolf, deer and moose, rabbit and porcupine, hawk and owl, otter and beaver, frog and turtle, even the little mice came. They wanted to see who would be right, Bear or brown squirrel. This is what the other animals heard.
The sun will not come up.
The sun is going to rise. Ooh.
The sun will not come up.
The sun is going to rise. Ooh. So, let me ask this. Why did all these other animals come along? What do you think? Why did they bother to come? Logan?
Because I wanted to see who's gonna be right.
Because they want to see who's going to be right. Also, too, let's say you're outside and all of a sudden you hear some kind of commotion going on. Maybe lots of voices.
The sun is not going to come up.
The sun's going to rise. Woo!
The sun is not going to come up.
You hear all this noise and all this talking. Wouldn't you be interested and want to check out what's going on? Yeah. So maybe at first they wanted to check out what was going on, and then they kind of wanted to see who was going to be right. Finally, it was just before dawn, the time when the sun always used to come up. Look, said Turtle, a little bit of red is starting to show. That's what I think a turtle would sound like. Yes, said Owl. I believe the sun will rise today. Bear only chanted louder.
The sun will not come up.
But right next to him, little brown squirrel piped up, the sun is going to rise. Woo! Now, why do you think Bear is getting louder? I mean, he's already loud to begin with, Kate, and why do you think he's getting louder?
Because he's getting mad.
Why is he getting mad?
Because all the other animals will use the tree squirrel because they see a bit of red.
What does that mean if they see a bit of red?
That means that the sun's going to come up.
So why is he getting mad?
Because he told the squirrel that the sun will not come up, but it's coming up.
Right. He told everybody, I can control the sun. I can tell the sun not to come up. The sun's scared of me. It's not going to come up now because I told it to not rise tomorrow. But it is starting to rise. So he's getting a little frustrated, a little angry, maybe a little worried because he realizes he's going to look foolish. And the sun came up. The birds sang their welcoming songs. The bright light of the new day spread over the land. Everyone was happy except for one animal. That animal was Bear. He sat there with his head down and a grumpy look on his face. The happiest animal of all was little brown squirrel. The sun came up, he chirped. The sun came up, the sun came up, the sun came up. Now I'm going to pause right there. How do all the animals act once the sun came up? How do all the animals act once the sun came up? Alina?
Surprise.
Some are surprised. How else do some of the animals act when the sun came up, Derek? Happy, yeah, especially Chipmunk, right? He's really happy. The sun came up, the sun came up, the sun came up. But what about the other animals, Aiden?
He was mad. He just looked foolish, and he didn't really do nothing.
Which one? Which animal feels that way? Bear, right. Bear is grumpy and mad because he realizes he looked foolish. So a lot of the animals are happy except for Bear. Now, why do you think the animals are so happy that the sun came up? I mean, my goodness, the sun comes up every day.
Yeah.
Why do you think the animals were so happy that the sun came up, Levi?
Because
Why do you think the animals would be happy that the sun came up? Especially this time. How is it different than any other day when the sun comes up, Levi?
I'm thinking.
Okay. It shouldn't take you that long to think. Let's focus, focus, focus. Angelina.
They're happy because if Bear was right, then the sun wouldn't come up and they would bump into a lot of things and they can't see.
Well, possibly, but they're happy because Bear was wrong, right?
Yep.
Because he walks around bragging all of the time how he is the best. And the other animals are just kind of tired of hearing it. So now he was made to look foolish. He said, I can control the sun. It obviously didn't work. So the other animals are kind of like, yeah, okay, bear. You're not the best after all. They're a little happy that way, okay? So now Brown Squirrel was so happy that he forgot what his wise old grandmother had told him when he was very young. Brown Squirrel, his grandmother had said, it is good to be right about something, but when someone else is wrong, it is not a good idea to tease him. Remember, to tease means to bother somebody in a not so nice way. Now think about that. When somebody else makes a mistake, do you think it's a good idea to go, ha, you made a mistake? No. And I hear that sometimes. There are friends in here that will do that sometimes. And that is not nice at all. It's almost like being a bully in a way. We don't make fun of somebody when they make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. You see me, I make mistakes all the time.
Wait, what?
Does it bother me when I make a mistake? No. That's just life. You have to make mistakes in order to be able to learn. If you don't make a mistake, you'll never learn anything. Because you won't realize that you did something wrong. Everybody makes mistakes.
Like sometimes in spring math you make mistakes.
Yeah, like sometimes in spring math when I'm giving the answers, I'll give the wrong answer by accident. Oh well, that's life. I made a mistake. So, Brown Squirrel's grandmother is saying, hey, when somebody else makes a mistake or they're wrong, don't make fun of them. Not a good thing to do. But remember, Brown Squirrel's so excited that he's not really paying attention to this. So now, little Brown Squirrel begins to tease Bear. Bear is foolish, the sun came up. Bear is silly, the sun came up. Bear is stupid, the sun... And whoa! Bear's big paw came down on little Brown Squirrel, pinning him to the ground. Bear leaned over and opened his huge mouth. I can picture this big wah. Yes, Bear growled. The sun did not come up. Yes, I do look foolish, but you will not live to see another sunrise. You will not ever tease anyone else again because I, Bear, am going to eat you. Brown Squirrel thought fast. You are right to eat me, he said. I was wrong to tease you. I would like to say I am sorry before you eat me, but you are pressing down on me so hard that I cannot say anything. I cannot say anything at all. I cannot even breathe. If you would lift up your paw just a little bit, then I could take a deep breath and apologize before you eat me. Is that good drama right there?
Yeah.
That is a good idea, Bear said. I would like to hear you apologize before I eat you.
Now, do you really think Brown Squirrel, we already know, but do you really think Brown Squirrel was going to try to apologize?
Nope.
No, not at all. Brown Squirrel realizes how foolish Bear is and how proud Bear is, thinking he's the most awesome. So, of course, Bear would think, well, yeah, of course he's going to apologize to me because I'm the most awesomest bear ever. When Brown Squirrel's like, he's not going to think that I'm going to apologize. Really? He's going to lift up his paw, and then I am going to run. So Bear lifted up his paw, but instead of apologizing, Brown Squirrel ran. He ran as fast as he could toward the pile of stones where he had his home. He had a tunnel under those stones and a nice warm burrow underground. Little Brown Squirrel's grandmother stood there in the door waiting for him. Hurry, Brown Squirrel, she said. She called, hurry, hurry. All right. Little Brown Squirrel dove for the door to his home, but Bear was faster than he looked. He grabbed for little Brown Squirrel with his big paw. Bear's long, sharp claws scratched Brown Squirrel's back from the top of his head to the tip of his tail. I picture these long claws just dragging down. But Brown Squirrel got away. Whew! Deep down in his burrow where Bear couldn't get him, Brown Squirrel curled up next to his grandmother and slept all winter while those scratches on his back healed. So remember, curled means to kind of tuck yourself into a ball, pulling your arms and your legs into a circle. So he curled up all winter so his back could heal or get better. Now, when Brown Squirrel comes out, we already know when he comes out of his hole, his tunnel in the spring, he's still happy. But do you think Brown Squirrel is going to want to tease Bear again?
No.
Probably not, right? Or other animals? Probably not. Do you think maybe he has learned his lesson with this one? Possibly. He now has some long scratches going down his back. Levi, don't do that. He now has some long scratches going down his back. So maybe, hopefully, he's thinking about, maybe I didn't make a good choice there. Uh-oh. Let me back up. Oh, here we go. Okay. When spring came, little Brown Squirrel came out of his hole and looked at himself. There were long, pale stripes all the way down his back where Bear had scratched him. He was Brown Squirrel no longer. He was now Chipmunk, the striped one. That is how Chipmunk got his stripes. Ever since then, Chipmunk has been the first animal to get up every morning. As the sun rises, he scoots to the top of the tallest tree to sing his song. The sun came up, the sun came up, the sun came up, the sun came up. And ever since then, Bear has been the last animal to get up. He doesn't like to hear Chipmunk's song. It reminds him, as it reminds us all, that no one, not even Bear, can do everything. Now, let me ask this question before we end this story. What do you think the lesson is in this story? Do you think the lesson of this story is teaching us why chipmunks have stripes on their backs and not other animals? No? Then what do you think the lesson of this story is? What do you think the lesson of this story is, Gwen?
I think it is like that not everybody can do everything and everything right and don't get tease people.
So there's actually two lessons that you were pointing out there. So one of the things that you mentioned was not everybody can do everything. So one lesson is that it's okay to be good at some things and not be good at other things. That's just who we are as people. We're good at some things, not good at other things, and that's perfectly fine. And also you mentioned how it's not good to tease people, and that's true. That's another lesson that this story wants to teach you. It's never a good idea to pick on somebody else, especially if you're making fun of them because they didn't do something that you think you could do better than them, or you're pointing out that they made a mistake. It's never a good idea to tease someone or try to hurt their feelings on purpose. You might accidentally hurt somebody's feelings, and that's different. Then you apologize and say, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. But it's never a good idea to try to hurt somebody's feelings on purpose just because you think they did something wrong or that you are better than they are. All right? Capiche? Capiche. All right. We can put our story away for now. I don't know why all of a sudden it's telling me I have photos here. So